Hey everyone, we are currently reading The One and Only Bob, and this is our fifth reading session, so part 5. We're still kind of learning about Bob's past and Bob's life with Julia. Bob thinks he's kind of like a tough dog and doesn't really want to follow directions, probably because of his really difficult past, right? He was thrown out of a moving vehicle and had to fend for himself until he found the Big Top Mall, and then finally when Julia adopted him. But he had a pretty hard life. And so I think because of that, he has put up some walls and some barriers. So we'll see what happens in part 5. This chapter is called The Car Thing. I suppose the real reason for the training stuff isn't my bad manners, although they leave a bit to be desired. It's my car thing. I've always had a hang up about cars and trucks, also riding lawnmowers, go-karts, anything with 4 wheels, an engine, and a driver. Don't like them, don't want to ride them, don't want anything to do with them. Those co-pilot dogs with their heads hanging out the window, flying their drool flags, boneheads. First of all, it ain't safe. And second of all, bad stuff can happen after you climb into a car. Take it from me. When Julia and George and Sarah realized I have transportation issues, they tried to lure me into the back seat of their car with treats. But you'd be surprised how stubborn I can be. I yelped so loud, the neighbors came running out to see what was happening to the poor little doggy. Score 1 for the poor little doggy. Click. That's when they started clicker training me. Click. Here's a treat. Come closer to the car, Bob. Click. Here's a treat. Watch while I open the door, Bob. Click. Here's a treat. Come right up to the seat, Bob. Click. Here's a treat. Come on in, Bob. Bob? Bob! Where are you, Bob? Yeah, it was a lot like that. Options. Still haven't been in a car, or a truck, or a tractor for that matter. When I have to go to the Rhymes with Pet threat, Julia and her parents walk me there. They say elephants have long memories. Well, so do dogs, people. It's not like I'm afraid, I'm just exercising my options. Do you think Bob's actually exercising his options here, or he is afraid? Full wag. Are you ready to head over to the park? George asks as he passes through the living room. He's carrying 2 flashlights and a roll of masking tape. Yep, Julia says, and I do the head tilt to show I'm intrigued by the conversation. The place where Ivan and Ruby live is called Wild World Zoological Park and Sanctuary. But everybody just calls it the park. George works at the park as a head groundskeeper, which means I've got some sway, and everybody who's employed there loves Julia. Give me a minute, I just need to grab my coat, says George. Straight home after that, though, Julia, says Sarah, just in case the weather gets bad. 1 minute the weatherman's saying we're going to have a little shower. Next minute it's the storm of the century. Julia scratches my head. I thought Hurricane Gus wasn't coming till tomorrow. Sometimes they can change course, says Sarah. They can be unpredictable. You know, George says with a wink, in the old days, they only named hurricanes after women. Julia groans. That is so sexist. It's not just the wind that I'm worried about on this one, George says. It's the storm surge that could be a problem. Flooding. Julia tries to make me wear her mom's latest creation, a knitted dog sweater with security written on it, which I suppose is an ironic reference to my petite size. I politely decline. All right, you win, Julia says. Ready for your walk, Bob? At the mention of the word walk, I go all crazy mutt, so it's clear I'm on board with the idea. Humans love it when we get silly. I think they're so weighed down by people problems that sometimes they need to be reminded what happy looks like. Julia attaches my string. I try for a little tug-of-war, but she refuses to buy it. Let's go see Ivan and Ruby, she says. Just hearing those names sends my tail into full wag. Good words, bad words. I've never met a dog who didn't get a big old grin on his kisser when walk slipped into a conversation. Dogs understand more than you might think. The Nature Channel says we're about as smart as the average human toddler. 2-year-olds, my fuzzy rump, we're a million times brainier than some babbling rugrat. There was a dog on that Man's Best Friend show who supposedly understood like 1,000 human words. Border Collie, I think. Those guys need to switch to decaf. The narrator was gushing about this wonder dog, and I'm like, well, duh, Brainiac, of course we understand people. Not everything, mind you, and some of us are more attentive than others. Depends a lot on just how interesting your human happens to be. Certain words will really cause our ears to perk up. The classics: treat, walk, frisbee, bacon. And don't forget the swear words: vet, bath, fireworks, vacuum cleaner. We always hear those. Clock versus moon. Julie and I wait by the front door while George says goodbye to Sarah. I think maybe the hardest thing for me about being domesticated, a pet, if you insist, is that I can't control my own schedule. If I had my way, I'd hang out with Ivan and Ruby all day, every day. Unfortunately, humans love their clocks. Dogs, we use the sky to tell time, like any sensible creature. Sky says it's dawn, time to eat. It's noon, time to eat. It's afternoon, time to eat. It's dusk, time to eat. It's midnight, time to eat. Point is, it's always time to eat. Dogs have a thing for the moon, too, like wolves and coyotes and other relatives. No calendars for us. Moon looks like a claw. Moon looks like a half a pancake. Moon looks like a tennis ball. Moon looks like a claw again. A chunk of time has passed. But humans, nope, that's not enough. It's not a chunk, it's a month. It's not just dawn, it's 6:32 a.m. on a Thursday. And boy, oh boy, we'd better hurry up and go to school or the office or change the baby. But who gives a woof about feeding the poor, starving, sad-eyed, grumbling tummy dog? After a spell, I got used to the comings and goings of Julia and her mom and dad, but it keeps changing. Julia leaves early for school and is gone most of the day. She returns home excited and energized, good sense mostly. But every now and then she comes back smelling a little like me after a visit to the dog trainer, battle-weary and ready to crawl under the covers. Sarah, who was pretty sick for a while, is feeling fine again, thank goodness. But she went back to work and she's away all day too. And George, who has a job at Ivan's place, works 5, sometimes 6 days a week. That means it's just me and the guinea pigs a lot of the time. I have a doggy door and an outside run, but it's not the same as touring the neighborhood with your person. Peeing without a potential audience is like talking to yourself. Sometimes I'm the teeniest bit jealous of Ivan and Ruby. They have someone around always. Which is crazy, I know. I'm free and they're not. But there it is. I told you I'm not a saint. The shelter. I know our route to Ivan and Ruby by heart, and I can't help tugging a bit even though I'm not supposed to. It's been a couple days since I've seen my pals, and I need my friend fix like I need air and water and belly rubs. We don't live far. Down to the end of the street, around a corner. Good news source there. And then a few more blocks. When I walk Julia, well, okay, suppose it looks like she's walking me, but I beg to differ. There's a place we pass that always makes me jumpy and bummed. It's the animal shelter, and I know it's a good place, a space for pets who don't have a safe home of their own. When I was abandoned on the highway just a few weeks old, an ice cage with a soft towel in it and a bowl of fresh water, well, I would have given just about anything for that. Still, when I walk by and hear all those desperate barks and meows and squeaks, it gets to me. Sometimes having great hearing is a pain. Thing is, I realize I have a home, and the gang in there doesn't, and I try not to think about stuff like that, you know? I mean, it's not like I can do anything about their tough breaks, right? And in fairness, maybe those animals aren't like me. I've always been a resilient, hardworking sort. Maybe some of those guys even made their own bad luck. Don't get me wrong, I try to be a nice guy. I do what I can to make the world a better place. Sure, chat with the guinea pigs, lick the strawberry jelly off Julia's hand, do my wag and dance when the rents come home to make them feel good. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. But it's like I said before, you gotta look out for numero uno. Guess that's why the shelter harshes my mellow. It's just, I'd rather not have to hear those guys every time I walk by. Makes me sad. Reminds me of the bad old days. All right, we'll stop there. Thanks for listening.